Hello, I'm Pam Stranahan with the Friends of the History Center. Today, we're filming another historic marker. This is a marker for the Fulton Community Church. And I want to thank Bubba Casterline, who encouraged me to pursue this marker designation, and Faynell Harold, who is a person that gave me all of the stories. This church grew out of a need from the local community. While their families could go to Rockport for church, they often held their classes in neighborhood houses, and they were mainly taught by the women and attended by the children. In the early 1940s, the Sunday school met in homes and in the school building, and announcements like Fulton Bible class meets Tuesday afternoon in the home of Mrs. Fanny Mars were published in the local newspapers. But then, in 1943, Frank Walker, who was assistant minister in Fort Worth, accompanied his father-in-law to Fulton to try fishing. Now, Walker didn't believe in fishing on Sunday, so he inquired at the Brock grocery store if there was a church in town. Brock said there were some women running a Sunday school at the little schoolhouse. So as Walker tells the story, well, I had a suit on, and I went up there, and there were 2 women and 4 or 5 kids sitting on the steps. When they saw a strange man in a suit climbing that little hill, they must have figured I was either crazy or a preacher. Well, they gave me the benefit of the doubt. One woman asked, "Are you a preacher?" And I replied, I was. "Well, I wish we'd known that we had a preacher in town." So he suggested he could preach that night. At 7 o'clock in the one-room building that was the schoolhouse, it was full of men, women, and children, overflowing into the yard. Walker went back to Fort Worth, but related he couldn't get a picture of those people out of his mind. I prayed about it, and I thought about it, and I wrestled with it. Then Walker and his wife and their baby daughter moved to Fulton in October of 1943. Walker told the folks, "I think the Lord just wants me down here to build a church. My wife and I are here to work with you. We expect nothing from you." Under the leadership of Walker, people organized a church, and by March of 1944, they purchased this lot from the town of Fulton, from the school district, for $10. Then, on Easter Sunday, 1944, they held a groundbreaking with many Fulton families leading the effort. By September of 1944, construction on the building was underway. The entire Fulton shrimp fleet donated proceeds from a day's fishing to the church fund. The congregation was led by a board of trustees, Mrs. Grace Rowe, Miss Hetty Weber, and the Reverend Mr. Walker. One of the ways they raised money was a skit billed as a womanless wedding. There are photographs from this. This was so popular that they held 2 performances with a free will offering. Only 1 year after they began building the church, in 1945, Reverend Walker burned the note clearing the community church of Fulton of its debt on Easter Sunday. Then in 1945, a bell was donated in memory of Cotton Sanders, who was killed in action in World War II. Later, a homecoming was held at the church in October of 1983 for Reverend Frank Walker. Then he was retiring from pastoring and wanted to preach one last time in the church. So a special celebration was held to celebrate 50 years of service for the Fulton Community Church. The additions to the church were made in 19 1983. So the original church was only that small section of this larger building, the small section that I'm standing in front of. But by 1983, the congregation had grown and they built a sanctuary that would seat 300 people.